Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhirai Vashnapradeshu Bhaktreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikim Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् श्रीविशाखांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतवे श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवारी पश्चात्तरेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्से नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गण हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So we'll continue the next chapter now. Puranjana becomes someone in next life. Mhm. So first is Jivatma getting the material intelligence. Second is he goes to hunt. The third was again he unites back with Dharmic intelligence, doing dharma for Artha and Kama. And now he gets attached. And because of that, he becomes someone in the next level. So Puranjana becomes someone in the next level. This is 28th chapter. The big chapter. It will go, I think, today, tomorrow. Prabhupada gives, after 20 verses, he gives huge purports. And it's more of a reincarnation or a law of lost thought. Yamyam vapismaram bhavam, that kind of purports Prabhupada gives. So Narada Vacha Shainika Bhaya Namnoye Varhishpandishtakarina Prajvara Kalakanyabhyam Vicheruravanim Imam. So we saw in the last, he was becoming old and his body was being attacked by Kalakanya, Prajvara and Yavanraj. So that is continuing from here. Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Rishikumar Prabhu, please start.
Yes, thank you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Narada continued, my dear King Prachina Bharishit, afterward the king of Yavanas, whose name is fear itself, as well as Rajvara, Kalakanya and his soldiers began to travel all over the world.
Basically, it's the body. Body becomes old. The fear starts. Then there is just before the death there is 107-degree Vishnu Jwara. And Kal Kanya is old age. This whole all throughout the world mental, from tip of his knees, feet to the top of his head, everything was all cells were completely conquered. So can you read this 28th chapter describes how.
Yes. The 28th chapter describes how leaving the worn out city with his wife Puranjana attained bhakti by the influence of devotees. Now the method of giving up the gross body is described until the 24th verse. The soldiers are various diseases. This karika means those who bestow the bad reactions of one's deeds.
Yes. So till 24th verse mostly we'll complete it today. We may even test 30, 32. And tomorrow we'll touch remaining 32 verses. But the purports are a little big, but we'll try to see the important points. So 24
So
verse.
one question, bro.
Mhm.
So it is said though, that as the age increases, the fear increases.
Hmm.
Now we see that in spirituality, fear is something which is start one, and then later on we see it is out of fear or gain or duty and love. My point is, Prabhu, for people who had been a normal life, or say not a devoted life, atheist person also, or even slightly religious, how that as the age increases, they get this fear component? Is it that because they get some experiences, or is it they start accepting that yes, there is a next life? What makes them fearful?
Prabhupada will answer this in question in your purport. What you're asking now, Prabhupada is going to answer it till 24th verse. Because I just read it. What Prabhupada says is, people, because they are very much hooked to the body, when the body doesn't function, so their whole investment of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and trying to enjoy money, trying to gather real estate, whatever business, that gets shattered as the age grows. They see their near and dear ones living, they're eating, they're not unable to eat, they're not unable to enjoy. That is the reason they become fearful, and they are seeing everybody around living bodies. That also gives them fear, thinking that they are not, they know it, what they should do, but instead of doing that, they have been entangled into material benefits like
So
desire, duty.
in one sense, it is good, right, Prabhu? Because then they start taking to spiritual messages or the
If they are pious, if they are pious, if they are not pious, then they become like till the last breath, they are becoming atheistic.
pious means how they are led the life, right? In a pious way also.
Uh, Basically, how what Prabhupada says in the purports, whatever I read till now, when pious, when they have some difficulty, they approach God. The impious, when they have difficulty, they challenge the God. They become atheistic. That is what happens.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
So, yes, we can get purport.
Yes, Prabhu. The period of life just prior to death is certainly very dangerous because usually at this time people are attacked by the weakness of old age as well as many kinds of diseases. The diseases that attack the body are compared here to soldiers. Wonderful. These soldiers are not ordinary soldiers, for they are guided by the king of Yavanas, who act as their commander in chief. The word Dishta Karina indicates that he is their commander. When a man is young, he does not care for old age, but enjoys sex to the best of his satisfaction, not knowing that at the end of his life, sexual indulgence will bring on various diseases, which so much disturb the body that one will pray for immediate death. The more one enjoys sex during youth, the more he suffers in old age.
Yes, because the vital element of the body is lost, teja, voja. Then one's immunity gets lost. Therefore, one of the STD diseases is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome because that immunity is gone and person is engaged in such uh, transgressed sexual acts. Ta ekada tu rabasa, ta ekada tu rabasa, puranjana purim rapa, rurudur bhauma bhogadhyam, jarat panagapalitam.
Once the dangerous soldiers attacked the city of Puranjana with great force. Although the city was full of paraphernalia for sense edification, it was being protected by the old serpent.
Uh, Old serpent is nothing but the prana. Prabhupada says the city was protected by a worn out life here, prana. Yes. Can read this highlighted. I can read the whole purport, I think the first paragraph, it's good.
Okay. As one's body engages in sense edification, it becomes weaker and weaker daily. Finally, the vital force becomes so weak that here it is compared to a weak serpent. The life here has already been compared to the serpent. When the vital force within the body becomes weak, the body itself also becomes weak. At such a time, the death symptoms, that is, the dangerous soldiers of death, superintendent Yamaraj, begin to attack very severely. According to the Vedic system, before coming to such a state, one should leave home and take sannyas to preach the message of Godhead for the duration of life. However, if one sits at home and is served by his beloved wife and children, he becomes certainly weaker and weaker due to sense gratification. When death finally comes, one leaves the body devoid of spiritual assets. At the present time, even the oldest man in the family does not leave home, being attached by wife, children, money, opulence, dwelling, etc. Thus, at the end of life, one worries about how his wife will be protected and how she will manage a great family responsibilities. In this way, a man usually thinks of his wife before death. Very powerful, blunt acharya. According to Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vyapi smaran bhava tajanti ante kalevaram tam tam ete vikanteva sada tad bhava bhavita. At the end of life, a person thinks of what he has done throughout his life. Thus, he gets another body, Dehantara, according to his thoughts and desires at the end of life. One overly addicted to life at home naturally thinks to his beloved wife at the end of life. Consequently, in the next life, he gets the body of a woman. And he also acquires the results of his pious and impious activity. This chapter, the acceptance of a woman's body by King Puranjana, will be thoroughly explained.
So yeah, this is the theme of this chapter. Kalakanyapi bhubuje Puranjana Purambalat Yaya Vibhuta Purusha Sadyo Nissaratam Yat. Yes. Parmeshwar Mataji, would you like to read?
Prabhuji, no problem. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Gradually, Kalakanya, with the help of dangerous soldiers, attacked all the inhabitants of Puranjana city and thus rendered them useless for all purposes.
Yes. Yes. You can read the whole purport, no issue.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
At the flag of end of the life, when the individuality of old attacks a man, his body becomes useless for all purposes. Therefore, Vedic training dictates that when a man is in his boyhood, he should train in the process of brahmacharya. That is, he should be completely engaged in the service of the Lord and should not in any way associate with women. When the boy becomes a young man, he marries between the age of 25 and 20 to 25. And he is married at the right age. He can immediately beget strong, healthy sons. Now, female descendants are increasing because young men are very weak sexually. A male child will be born if the husband is sexually stronger than the wife. But if the female is stronger, a female child will be born. That is the essential, thus it is essential to practice the system of brahmacharya. If one wishes to beget a male child, when one married, one when one is married, when one is reaches the age of 50, he should give up family life. At that time, one's child should be grown up so that the father can leave the family responsibilities to him. The husband and wife may then go abroad to live a retired life and travel to different places of pilgrimage. When both the husband and wife lose their attachment for family and home, the wife returns home to live under the care of her grown up children and to remain aloof from family affairs. The husband then takes a sannyasa to render some service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the perfect system of civilization. The human form of life is especially meant for God realization. If one is unable to take the process of Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of the life, he must be trained to accept these principles at the fact end of life. Unfortunately, there is no training even in childhood, nor can one give up his family life. Even at the end, this is the situation with the city of Puranjana, figuratively described in the these verses.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. So see, the whole thing is about Nivritti Marga. तयोपभुज्यमानां वै यवना सर्वतो दिशं द्वार्भी प्रविश्य सुभृशं प्रार्थयन् सकलां पुरीं.
Hare
Can
Krishna, Prabhuji.
you can read this one also, Mother?
Yes, Prabhuji. When Kalakanya, daughter of time, attacked the body, the dangerous soldiers of the king of the Yavanas entered the city through different gates. They can begin to give severe trouble to all the citizens. Purport. Body has 9 gates: the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth, rectum, and genitals. When one is harassed by the individuality of old age, various diseases manifest at the gates of the body. For example, the eyes become so dim that one requires spectacles, and the ears become too weak to hear directly, and therefore one requires hearing aids. The nostrils are blocked by mucus, and one has to always sniff a medicinal bottle containing ammonia. Similarly, the mouth, too weak to chew, requires false teeth. The rectum also gives one trouble, and the evacuation process becomes difficult. Sometimes one has to take the enemas, and sometimes use a surgical nozzles to accelerate the passing of urine. In this way, the city of Puranjana was attacked at various gates by the soldiers. Thus, thus, in old age, all the gates of the body are blocked by so many diseases, and one has to take help from so many medicines and surgical appliances.
So, therefore, this should help us, remind us that we should not become complacent when we are having a healthy body. Because today is better than tomorrow. The more and more we age, the more and more it will be difficult for us to practice on the physical level. So, at least when we are younger, when we are, at least we are not 80, 90, at least we will be 60, 55. That is much more better than being 70, 75. On the material level, if one is spiritually advanced, again, he functions at a different level. But what do you think is this should remind us that we should not postpone our practice, that after some time will become very serious. So right now we have to become serious. That is what this verses tell us, because right now when hale and healthy, Krishna Tutiya Pad Pankaja Panjarantam, that Prabhupada is going to bring that shloka of Mukundamala Stotra of Kulshekar in the coming verses. Should remind us that yes, we should not postpone things. We may be having a lot of services, we may have to give a lot of time to many people, trying to follow them up, trying to guide them, trying to distribute books, trying to preach. But the most important aspect of our life is our body, because if it is healthy, then we can chant, then we can read. Second is sadhana. And third is seva. So that is how the priority should be. Otherwise, if the seva is much more than which is not able to give time to body and chant or rounds and read or Prabhupada books, then body is fragile. Beyond some time, we can't function. So Prabhupada told till the time you become 50, 60 years, work hard with the body. Once you become 60, 65, 70, get into the services where you can guide, advise. And then after 60, 65, we can retire to Vrindavan and chant our rounds. Nam bhajan, full Nam bhajan. That's what he writes many times in Lilamrit. That in young you want preach, 50, 60, then after that, once things are not functioning, then the engagement of service, our senses should be so purified that we can sit in one place and just chant or read or just get into Lila Smaranam. That should be the consciousness. Tasyayam prapidyamānāyam abhimāni puranjana avaporo vidam stapam kutumbi mamatakula.
I have a question. If you want, we can take later also.
I can ask.
Sorry, bro, if disturbs you, bro. Sorry.
No, nothing disturbs me. Yes.
Prabhuji, this I forgot the question.
Oh,
Maybe I can ask you.
I think I disturbed you. Okay, Ramkishore. Okay, once you remember, you can ask Prabhu, huh? Ramkishore, Prabhu, please kindly you can read that.
Okay, I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yes.
When the city was thus endangered by the soldiers of Kalakanya, King Puranjana, being overly absorbed in affection for his family, was placed in difficulty by the attack of Yavanraj and Kalakanya. So I'll read the purport, Prabhuji.
Yeah. I'm not highlighting because the pulpit is small.
Okay. When we refer to the body, we include the external gross body with its various limbs, as well as the mind, intelligence, and ego. In the old age, these all become weak when they are attacked by different diseases. The proprietor of the body, the living soul, becomes very sad at not being able to use the field of activities properly. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that the living entity is the proprietor of this body, Kshetrajna, and that the body is the field of activities, Kshetra. When a field is overgrown with thorns and weeds, it becomes very difficult for the owner to work it. That is the position of the spirit soul when the body itself becomes a burden due to disease. Extra burdens are placed on the body in the form of anxiety and general deterioration of the bodily function.
Yes. That is how it is, Like if somebody has farm or somebody
Old
has.
people get more anxiety from this, we understand.
Yeah, basically how it is a farmer when he has a land, but he's not unable to, he has no children and he's alone and he has to run the whole show. Then what happens is only he just takes care of the field around his, in front of his house, behind his house. Most of the time, the whole mango orchards or fruit orchards, they are completely filled with a lot of leaves, dry leaves. He's unable to clean it. Basically, whole thing is when you have a land, you have to maintain it. But when we are not unable to maintain the land, when the rain comes, it just grows like hell. Then when somebody is unable to do it, then one just lose like that, like abundant land. Similarly, body becomes like that. When a person is having a body and his bodily senses, all the nine holes are attacked by the diseases. Like what the graphically way Prabhupada explained in the previous verses, he's not able to chew, he's not able to digest, he's not able to pass urine, he's not able to evacuate. It's like that affects the mind, subtle body, like irritated if one is not Krishna conscious. It is not transcended the bodily level. So the first principle, all of us as devotees, is that we should be very honest and we should be very pakka with our spiritual practice. We should preach because ours is a missionary movement, but our preaching should not be at the cost of our own practice of bhakti. We have to render service, not at the cost of our own practice of Krishna consciousness, our own chanting, reading, hearing. That should go on. There should be a balance. Why? Because if it becomes a burden now, then surely after some time, bhakti will be much more burdensome. Extra burdens are placed on the body in the form of anxiety and general deterioration of the bodily function. Yeah, this is things become difficult. We can't change. That is the reason it is told. Prabhupada used to tell always why is that you are preaching to young people in the universities? Prabhupada told because the new tricks cannot be taught to old dogs. That is means the body becomes aged, change, accepting change becomes very difficult because mind is not in that condition to accept changes. Just want to be at one point. Ramkrishna, is it fine?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. Sixth. Kanyo Kanyopagudo Nashtashri Kripono Vishayatmaka Nashtapradnyo Kritaishwarya Gandharva Yavanirbalat.
When the king Puranjana was embraced by Kalakanya, he gradually lost all his beauty. Having been too much addicted to sex, he became very poor in intelligence and lost all his opulence. Being bereft of all possessions, he was conquered forcibly by the Gandharvas and the Yavanas.
Vishiranam should be destroyed. Pratikula means they acted adversely against the nature. They were subject to lamentation, other distress. They did not respect him. The sons are discernment and other such qualities. The grandsons are patience and other qualities. The followers are the senses, and the ministers are the controlling deities of the mind and senses. And the word cha indicates that they could not at all perform their functions. As well, their wife, intelligence, had no power of apprehension. Basically, the different functions of the body compared to son, grandson, wife, ministers, Teja, Oja, all those things compared. But when Kalakan attacked, she attacked everything. Yes, Prabhupada writes. Yes, Prabhupada can read his purport.
Prabhuji.
One line. Yeah.
Yeah, you can read Prabhuji purport after that, I guess.
Okay. When a person is attacked by the invalidity of old age and is still addicted to sense gratification, he gradually loses all his personal beauty, intelligence, and good possessions. He thus cannot resist the forceful attack of the daughter of time.
Still addicted to sense gratification. See, when in old age people who are unable to control senses, they continue. Prabhupada told a person is trying to put a ball inside the hole, playing golf when he's 70, 75. Somebody are going to nightclubs, drinking there, trying to watch a woman. All his personal beauty, intelligence, and good position. Vinasha Kale Viprita Buddhi. Yeah, that means Anth has come. Yes, Rishi Kumar Prabhu.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, I have two things to maybe say, and you can comment on that. One is, many years before I read an article in BTG. So there was one devotee who was lying on the old age bed, and then the title of the article was, Marathi मध्ये वाचलं होतं की म्हातारपण एक वरदान, which means old age and boon, like that. And then I read that, so I don't remember the exact full thing, but the summary was that when a person is actually ill, this we experience in our life also. When माणूस जेव्हा आजारी असतो तेव्हा त्याला भोग सुचत नाही. When someone is old, when ill or health is not good, the sensitification doesn't trouble him because he himself is already not very good. So the enjoyment propensity is not there. So then the whole comment was on that because I'm old now, I don't have any sensitification, that desire is not there. But somehow now this time, if I get the association of devotees, I can very nicely have good consciousness. So your comment, Purji, on this?
Yeah, he might be a realized soul. For realized soul, it's like one thing is a forceful retirement is there. Body is not able to function, therefore you give up enjoyment. That is there good.
Now also, if you see now, suppose our health is not good, even if you have some cough and cold, the desire to have a very malicious good food and all these things doesn't comes actually.
Because the prana or the intelligence, discernment doesn't work. There is no much vega.
So one sense it's good, right? I mean to say, because there is no karma one is going to add in that particular time duration at least.
Yes, Prabhu, it is one sense in that way good, because as soon as your discernment, your thinking process, and your teja voja decreases by the disease, what happens is when you become diseased, even our chanting, reading, hearing also we can't grasp. If you have observed, at least I have observed myself, whenever it has been a very, like when COVID-1 was there, COVID-2 was there, somehow rounds are being dragged, what we are doing.
Yeah, somehow.
So it's that as a king. The main whole intellect is hooked. Then the absorption doesn't come there also. It is there that senses are very so numb that it doesn't go for sense gratification, but then we need senses for even bhakti also. That also becomes an obstacle.
Yes. So one more thing, like we were discussing these things at the time of death. More than the karma, or along with the karma, what is the consciousness of the soul? What that particular person is thinking? Based on that, he enters into that body. So Prabhupada also says in other purposes that actually certainly he is creating his own body now only. in this body itself with the mind. So suppose there is some practitioner, a sadhaka, and at the flag end of his life, he felt, oh, I wasted my life. I could have done more. I didn't do these things. So does this consciousness also carries and then he gets up in a better position next life?
Yeah, Prabhupada writes in the purport to Ishupnishad, Mata Om Kritasmara, Kritam Smara, Kritam Smara, Kritam Smara. He writes, okay, if somehow the devotee is not able to remember Krishna at the time of death, he has been sincerely practicing, and he is not able to remember Krishna at the time of death. So Krishna will remember him at the time of death. His sincerity.
That is one part. That is one part. I'm saying one who is he's in good. I mean to say he doesn't have a physical problem. I mean to say he has not lost his consciousness, but he's lamenting. I mean to say he feels very that he wasted time and could have done it more better. So he regrets actually, to be more particular.
Okay.
So does this also helps?
What I feel, Prabhuji, regretting will help if one has done a lot of, that is coming out of dainya. Like when you practice bhakti, then the position for a devotee is a position like all Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all that is a position like dainya. Anything little thing they have done, they are like feeling it like it's like huge thing. A little small bit of this transgression of something before coming to bhakti or whatever it is, the thing see it as a big thing. But when it comes to those people who have not had done lot of bhakti, their regret at the time of death. Again, what amount of bhakti they have done, that is what they will be awarded to them at the time of death.
Oh.
Regret may help, repentance may help, but repentance has to be coupled with penance. In the case of Ajamil, he repented, but then he went to Haridwar, then he took a vow, then he chanted his rounds there. Again, 30 years he went and he did a lot of austerities with chanting, devotional austerities, and then the Vishnu Thas came again. So the repentance has to be coupled with penance. That creates.
So, that is after the particular situation has been obtained. So what I understand is that repentance alone is not sufficient. Along with the repentance, what is important is what amount of bhakti one has done in that particular life, and when there has to be humility also while repenting. Alone repental itself is not useful. Correct, bro?
Yeah. And there's a difference between repentance of a pure devotee and repentance of a person who has not done much. Yeah, the pure devotee's repentance is like out of dainya. He has done a lot of bhakti, but for little bit falling short of something, he's seeing it as a big thing.
So for sadhaka, rather than repenting, he should do something practical that time, and to say in terms of reading or hearing. Don't just think about whatever has been. It's gone is gone. Now whatever you have, you do something like that is more positive.
True. That is very positive.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
That is what is practical, and it is helpful, and that is how it will bring us close to Krishna. Like lamentation is what we have seen. A lamentation on the material level, it is in ignorance. Hankering is in passion. Doing something practical is needs sattva, and then especially due to bhakti, then it can even take us to the sattva in time to come.
Great.
Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a question there.
Yes.
Just regarding to just what you said, that lamentation, for generally materialist is the mode of ignorance. But what Rishi Kumar Prabhu was saying was that when a person repents that he has not done anything in life, and then he should have done. So will that also be categorized as little ignorance?
If it is not adding positive practice, what makes a devotee's lamentation positive is it gives him an engine to practice bhakti intensely. So he is just lamenting, he's just regretting, but there is no positive practice add, responsibility add. That is like ignorance.
Okay.
That is ignorance. Even if it
generally understand the Prabhuji, a person who laments, that means like even Puranjana, when he did something wrong, he lamented and at least he stopped that wrong thing. So if
Yeah.
somebody in the material world is lamenting his life, then the natural outcome of that would be to take shelter of the Lord and to start the process under the guidance of Guru. So in that
Yes.
case, that will not be considered as lamentation, right? Or sorry, ignorance, right?
Yeah, that is like he's acting on it.
Acting on it. Yes.
Yeah, he's acting, he's going ahead, he's taking responsibility for that lamentation.
Yes. Yes.
So
Perfect. Thank
regression,
you.
regretting or lamenting is fine as far as it is appended with something positive in the spiritual context. May it
Yes.
be chanting, remembering, or even meditating something positive, right?
Best is when we go under guidance of a devotee.
Yes.
That
Perfect.
because the lamentation is happening because actually in our sadhaka stage, it's always best that what anything we do, we should have somebody in our life whom we share. For Swatavara, Snigdha, Sajatiya, who's little bit more advanced than us, are very good if they're much more advanced than us. Like Ram Kishore told, yeah, taking guidance of a guru and then practicing, trying to mend it. Are any of the devotees whom you have faith in?
Krishna.
Yes, Ramdas.
Actually, the lamentation sometimes would lead to depression.
Yeah, that is material lamentation. And that may happen in devotee circle also. True. Okay, shall we go ahead? Yeah. Vishirnam swapurim viksha pratipulan anadratan putran pautranudam matyam jayam cha gata saurudam.
King
So,
Puranjana then
yes.
saw that everything in his town was scattered, and that his sons, grandsons, servants, and ministers were all gradually opposing him. He also noted that his wife was becoming cold and indifferent.
Yes. Yes, Prabhu, you can read. Purpose,
Yes.
whole book you can read. When one becomes
In
in
the
a,
human in the
you can
human form of life.
you can read from beginning, Prabhuji. This is it.
Yes, yes. When one becomes an invalid, his senses and organs are weakened. In other words, they are no longer under one's control. The senses and sense objects then begin to oppose him. When a person is in a distressed condition, even his family members, his sons, grandsons, and wife become disrespectful. They no longer are under the command of the master of the house. Just as we wish to use our senses for sense gratification, the senses also require strength from the body in reciprocation. A man keeps a family for enjoyment. Similarly, the family member demands enjoyment from the head of the family. When they do not receive sufficient money from him, they grow disinterested and ignore his commands or desires. This is all due to one's being a kripana, miser. The word kripana, used in the sixth verse, is in opposition to the word brahmana. In the human form of life, one should become a brahmana, which means that one should understand the constitutional position of the absolute truth, Brahma, and then engage in his service as a Vaishnava. We get this facility in the human form of life, but if we do not properly utilize this opportunity, we become a kripana or miser. A miser is one who gets money but does not spend it properly. The human form of life is especially meant for understanding Brahma, for becoming a Brahmana. And if we do not utilize it properly, we remain a Kripana. We can actually see that when one has money but does not spend it, he remains a miser and is never happy. Similarly, when one's intelligence is spoiled due to sense gratification, he remains a miser throughout his life.
Yes. Atmanam kanyaya grastam panchalan haridushitan duranta chintamapanno na lebe tat pratikriya. Yes. Shobha Lakshmataji, can you read this one?
When King Puranjan saw that all his family members, relatives, followers, servants, and everyone else had turned against him, he certainly became very anxious. But he could not counteract the situation because he was thoroughly overwhelmed by Kalikanya. He was attacked by old age, Kanyaya, and the five sense objects were spoiled by disease. He could find no cures by mantras or medicines. When a person becomes weak from the attack of old age, the family members, servants, and secretaries do not care for him. He is then unable to counteract this. Thus, he becomes more and more anxious and laments his frightful condition.
Kaman vilashandino yatayamamscha kanyaya vigatatmagati sneha putradaramscha lalayam.
The objects of enjoyment became stale by the influence of Kalikanya. Due to the continuance of his lusty desires, King Puranjan became very poor in everything. Thus, he did not understand the aim of life. He was still very affectionate towards his wife and children, and he worried about maintaining them.
So Chakrutpa is writing here, he desired sweets, but they were useless since he could not digest them. He lost the goal of better next life and lost the goal of this life, affection from sons and family. Another version has Niyat, he was miserable because of losing his life goal and the affection of his sons. This one is the purpose.
This is exactly the position of present civilization. Everyone is engaged in maintaining the body, home, and family. Consequently, everyone becomes confused at the end of life, not knowing what spiritual life and the goal of human life are. In a civilization of sense gratification, there cannot be spiritual life because a person thinks only of this life. Although the next life is a fact, no information is given about it.
No information of next life. Gandharva Yavana Krantam Kalakanyo Pamarditam Hatum Pachakrame Raja Tam Purim Manikamataha. You can read this one, Mataji.
The city of Puranjan was overcome by the Gandharva and Yavana soldiers, and although the king had no desire to leave the city, he was circumstantially forced to do so, for it was smashed by Kalakanya.
Can read from here. Underline due to long.
Due to long association with a particular type of material body, and also due to the grace of Kalakanya and her Maya, one becomes overly attached to a material body, although it is the abode of pain. Even if one tries to separate a worm from stool, the worm will be unwilling to leave. It will return to the stool. Similarly, a hog generally lives in a very filthy state, eating stool, but if one tries to separate it from its condition and give it a nice place, the hog will be unwilling. In this way, if we study each and every living entity, we will find that we will defy offers of a more comfortable position. Although King Puranjan was attacked from all sides, he was unwilling to leave the city. In other words, the living entity, whatever his condition, does not want to give up the body, but he will be forced to give it up, because after all, the material body cannot exist forever. Although material existence and the material body are not comfortable, why does the living entity not want to live? As soon as one gets a material body, he has to work very hard to maintain it. He may engage in different fields of activity, but whatever this is, everyone has to work very hard to maintain the material body. Unfortunately, society has no information of the soul's transmigration. Because the living entity does not hope to enter the spiritual kingdom of eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. He wants to stick to his present body, even though it may be useless. Consequently, the greatest welfare activity in this material world is the furthering of the Krishna consciousness movement. This movement is giving human society information about the kingdom of God. There is God, there is Krishna, and everyone can return to God and live eternally in bliss and knowledge. A Krishna conscious person is not afraid of giving up the body because his position is always eternal. A Krishna conscious person engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord eternally. Therefore, as long as he lives within the body, he is happy to engage in the loving service of the Lord. And when he gives up the body, he is also permanently situated in the service of the Lord. The saintly devotees are always free and liberated, whereas the karmis who have no knowledge of spiritual life or the transcendental loving service of the Lord are very much afraid of giving up the rotten material body.
So the need for propagating the Krishna conscious message. Bhayanamno agrajo brata prabhu prajvara pratyupashtitaha dadahatam purim krishnam Prathu Priya Chikirshaya. So to please his elder brother Agraja, that he was elder brother Prajvara. He wanted to please his younger brother Yavanraj. He set fire to the city. Yes.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
I have a question too. If you Prabhuji, if we see from Bhagavatam, there are various facts which are mentioned, various aspects. For example, someone about his family members, they said that they will leave you, they will not be helping you. Or for someone, it is like they talk about the material world. Material world is very, very a place of suffering, and sometimes you get suffering from your health, from your body, somewhere from relative. In other place, so many things are mentioned about one's body will not cooperate. It will say that many things are there. My point is that in some people's life, this all the phases don't come. No, for example, he said the body will trouble you at the end of the life, but some people actually die out of a heart attack, and within 4 hours they are gone, or they sleep in the night and they go to some stage and they are died. Someone doesn't get a family problem, someone doesn't have. So not that all the people get all the problems which are mentioned in scriptures. Now, is it because that person has not done that type of activities, therefore he has not got it, or whatever is mentioned in Bhagavatam are for a general man and not for all? It's a general question.
Yeah, because there are 84 lakh species. In that 4 lakh human species is there, and everybody's body is tailor-made according to one's desires. Subtle body, the body of desires. So, who undergoes different miseries? What Bhagavatam is telling is Bhagavatam is like a supermarket of description of everything about. There is description of pure bhakti, the description about planetary system, the description about devotees practicing like aristocracy, diplomacy, everything is there. So there's also description of in general of a human being from childhood to old age. So all these things may be visible in one person, or it may not be visible in some person. Like the way you're telling somebody get heart attack, and he may not experience in this life, but some life he'll experience it based on what kind of activities he has done in the past life.
Because what happens, so I got your conviction answer. But some people, those who are normally religious, if you tell all these things to them that, this money is not going to stay with you and you know what you do. And anyways, so because they have not gone through that stage or it has not been come to them, they don't accept this particular program.
Yeah. Yes. But because somebody is at a karma stage, somebody has a nishkama stage, somebody has sakama karma stage, somebody is karma kanda stage. There is variety of living beings in the whole universe. So for somebody is at the level of pravritti marg, you want to speak of nivritti, is not going to accept it. Therefore, Vedvas created so many literatures, and then Narmil told, "Arey, we're only creating so many literatures, thinking that living entities are only meant for enjoyment, but also create some scriptures for Satvaguni devotees." Then he created Bhagavatam. So it may happen that we come across some people who are not having much sukruti, so they will not accept it. Therefore, we sing every day 3 times when we take prasad, Mahaprasade, Govinde, Nama, Brahmani, Vaishnava, Svalpa Punyam Vatan Rajam Vishwasuneva Jayate. So this living entity may experience in this life, or sometimes even if he experiences in previous life also, but he's so blunt, Sukriti is missing, he will not accept it. Pasyanapina pashyati, Krishna says. It's difficult to wake a person who is sleeping. It's easy to wake a person who's sleeping, but not a person who's awake, who's damn on sense gratification. Like many people say, Prabhuji, people are having the program here, not so far. If you have this program here, then we'll come. But if you do the program there, but still they'll not come. That is how it is. Yes, Surikant
Got
Krishna
it. Thank
Prabhu.
you. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, Surikant Prabhu is not there. Mataji, would you like to read? Raj Gauri Mataji. Oh, Prabhu has come. Yes, Prabhu. Please read this translation.
Okay, translation. Under the circumstances, the elder brother of Yamanraj, known as Prajwara, set fire to the city to please his younger brother, whose other name is Fear itself.
Yes. So Prajvara is Vishnu Jara. That is what Chakravarti was mentioning. And you can read this purport Prabhuji highlighted in Alu.
Yes. According to the Vedic system, a dead body is set on fire. But before the death, there is another fire or fever which is called Prajwara or Vishnu Jara. Medical science verifies that when one's temperature is raised to 107 degrees, man immediately dies. This Prajwara higher fever at the last stage of life places the living entity in the midst of blazing fire.
Before a person leaves the body, there is an immense burning heat. There is sometimes people like they the way they shake their leg, the way they shake their hands. Sometimes they pass urine and stool also. Sometimes like it's very, very trouble. Like most of the times when you see Krishna killing all the demons, how the way their eyeballs come out of the body, the way they leave their prana. So there is intense fire actually before leaving a body, before they are put into fire. That is what Prabhupada graphically explaining here. Tasyam sandadhyana, tasyam sandahimanayam sapurao saparichadaha kautumbika kutumbinya upatapya shanvaya. Yes, Prabhuji.
When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, sons, grandsons, wives, other relatives, were within the fire. King Puranjana thus became very unhappy. Okay. The
Whole body is
citizen,
yeah. Read Padmaji. What are citizens representing?
citizens are seven dhatus. Okay. The citizens are seven dhatus. The retinue or servants are the senses. Kautumbika means one who enjoys with the wife. He suffered along with his intelligence. The descendants are the sons and the grandsons. The lack of son is poetic license. There are many parts of the body, the senses, the limbs, the skin, the muscles, blood, marrow, etc. And all these are considered here figuratively as sons, grandsons, citizens, and dependents. When the body is attacked by the Vishnu Jana, the fiery condition becomes so acute that sometimes one remains in a coma. This means that body is in such a severe pain that one becomes unconscious and cannot feel the miseries taking place within the body. Indeed, the living entity becomes so helpless at the time of death that although unwilling, he is forced to give up the body and enter another. Now, people are very busy trying to find petroleum in the midst of the ocean. They are very anxious to make provisions for the future petroleum supply, but they do not make any attempts to ameliorate the conditions of birth, old age, disease, and death. Thus, a person in ignorance, not knowing anything about his own future life, is certainly defeated in all his activities.
So Prabhupada brings suddenly petrol. Now also it is the same fact. यवनोपरुद्धयात्मनो विस्तायां कालकन्यया पुर्यां प्रज्वार संसृष्टा पुरोपालो अन्वन्त पुरोपालन्वतप्यता. Yes, Pooji, please.
The city superintendent of police, the serpent, saw that citizens were being attacked by Kalakanya, and he became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by the Yavanas.
City superintendent of police, Prabhupada writes. That is life here, prana.
Yes. The living entity is covered by two different types of bodies, the gross body and the subtle body. At death, we can see that gross body is finished, but actually the living entity is carried by the subtle body to another gross body. The so-called scientists of the modern age cannot see how the subtle body is working in carrying the soul from one body to another. This subtle body has been figuratively described as serpent or the city's police superintendent. When there is fire everywhere, the police superintendent cannot escape either. When there is a security and an absence of fire in the city, the police superintendent can impose this authority upon citizens. But when there is an all-out attack on the city, he is rendered useless. As the life air was ready to leave the gross body, the subtle body also began to experience the pain.
So when there is fire everywhere, even police can't help. He also burns. So similarly, when there is prajvara, even the prana has to leave the gross body, the subtle body. Then there is because the subtle body, the gross body is in sync, and because of the soul. So when the gross body is burnt, the prana is being withdrawn from there and will go with the mind to the next body. That is what creates pain. Out of body experience. Na seke so vitum tantatra uru krushruro vepatu dantum aichata tato vriksha utara diva sanalat. Yes, Mataji, please read.
Yes. As a serpent living within the cavity of tree wishes to live when there is a forest fire. So the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat.
Can read. He could not protect the city. He decided to leave just as snake decides to. Basically, what Chakrabarti is writing here, the prana is compared to the snake. When there is tree burnt and snake is hiding inside the cavity of the tree, that also runs away. Just as the body is burnt, the prana is living like a snake which is burnt in a tree. That is what Chakrabarti was mentioning. You can read Purport Mata. It becomes very difficult.
It becomes very difficult for snakes to leave a forest when there is a fire. Other animals may flee due to their long legs, but serpents, only being able to crawl, are generally burnt in the fire. At the last stage, the limbs of the body are not as much affected as the life air.
Sitila Vaibhav yahi Gandharvair Hita Paurusha Yavanair Arivirajan Uparuddho Rudoha.
The limbs of the serpent's body are slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavan soldiers who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in his attempt, he began to cry loudly.
So at death approached, he made a rattling sound in his throat. So Prabhupada writes, you can read the purport of the beginning. At
the last stage of life, the different gates of the body are choked by the effects of the disease, which are caused by an imbalance of bile, mucus, and air. Thus, the living entity cannot clearly express his difficulties, and surroundings relatives hear the sound gur 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 from a dying man. In this Mukunda Mala Stotra, the king Kulshekara states, Krishna Tvadiya Pad Pankaja Panja Rantam
Advaye me vishatu manasaraj hamsa prana prayana samye kapavata pittai kanta varodana vido varanam kutaste.
My dear Krishna, please help me die immediately so that the swan of my mind may be encircled by the stem of your lotus feet. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up, how will it be possible for me to think of you? The swan takes great pleasure in diving within water and being encircled by the stem of the lotus flower. This entanglement is for sporting joy. If in our healthy conditions we think of the lotus feet of the Lord and die, it is most fortunate. In the old age, at the time of death, the throat sometimes becomes choked with mucus and blocked by air. At such a time, the sound vibrations of Hare Krishna, the Mahamantra, may not come out. Thus, one may forget Krishna. Of course, those who are strong in Krishna consciousness cannot possibly forget Krishna at any stage because they are accustomed to chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, especially when there is a signal from death.
Hmm. So that is so important to practice when we are healthy and healthy. Vitra putra pautramscha jami jamatra parshadan svatva vashishtam yat kinchit graha kosha parichadam.
King Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, servants, and other associates, as well as his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth.
Yes. So
Yummy.
here Chakravarti writes here. So he's thinking of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughter-in-laws, son-in-laws, servants, and associates. So Chakravarti gives a metaphor explanation of this. Yami means daughter-in-law, and then this separation from the body. Again, separation from the woman. It's not referring to the influence, but actually to the wife itself. That is what it does not refer to his intelligence, since when the gross body of a jiva is destroyed, there is no separation of the jiva from the intelligence, because the intelligence goes with the atma. This refers to conditioned jiva's normal material wife, object of attachment, enjoyment by all the senses. The daughters and others mentioned this were also the conventional daughters and relatives, not the symbols in the spiritual metaphor. Some say at the time of death, the jiva thinks of his wife and sons, not of intelligence, discernment, other elements. Basically, what is being spoken here, it's not about the metaphor, it's about the reality. In the regular life, when a person lives, then he lives all his sons, grandsons, great grandsons, wife, daughter-in-laws, all those things. That is what Chakrus was mentioning. Mata, you can read this purport of Prabhupada.
It is not infrequent for a person overly attached to the material body to request a physician to prolong his life at least for some time. If the so-called scientific physician is able to prolong one's life for a few minutes through the use of oxygen or other medicines, he thinks that he is very successful in his attempts, although ultimately the patient will die. This is called the struggle for existence. At the time of death, both patient and physician still think of prolonging life, although all the constituents of the body are practically dead and gone.
Yeah. What is struggle for existence? Uh, the material body trying to continue to exist beyond one's time period, ayu. That is a struggle for existence. The soul is eternal, body is temporary. When there is a conflict between that, it's called a struggle for existence. Aham mameti svikritya griheshu kumatir grihi dadyo pramadayadino viprayoga upastite. Yes, Shurumi Radha Kamataji, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mine. Because he was overly attached to his wife, he was already quite poverty stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry.
Yes, you can read this transmigration.
The transmigration of the subtle body is never visible to material eyes. Therefore, when one gives up the gross body, we think that he is finished. Plans for material enjoyment are made by the subtle body, and the gross body is the instrument for enjoying these plans. Thus, the gross body can be compared to the wife, for the wife is the agent for all kinds of sense gratification. Because of long association with the gross body, the living entity becomes very sad to be separated from it. The mental activity of the living entity obliges him to accept another gross body and continue his material existence. One often sees that just before leaving his body, a man may call for his beloved son to give him charge of his wife and other paraphernalia. He may say, "My dear boy, I am being forced to leave. Please take charge of the family affairs." He speaks in this way, not even knowing his destination.
And while speaking, he will not even be able to express it very clearly. Like Prabhupada told, the sound of Guru Guru coming while trying to speak, the rattling sound. Basically, he himself is being snatched by Kala, and he's telling, "Okay, take care of yourself, take care of all the families." That is what attachment is. The same thing we can see also. Sometimes we are more concerned about others than our own life. It happens. The tendency is there to अपना चैंटिंग अपना रीडिंग अपना हो गया बस अभी चलो दूसरों को हम आगे बढ़ाएंगे दूसरों को करेंगे and therefore at the time of death also it is prevalent, it is also materially also. And even in the when we start practicing bhakti, yeah, ours is like purity is the force, utility is the principle, books are the basis, and preaching is the essence. But again, not at the cost of our own self. First we should fly our own aircraft. लोकतन्त्रं गतावाति मयि अनाथ कुटुम्बिनी वर्तिष्यते कथं त्वा एषा बालकान् अनुशोचति.
King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, "Alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by thoughts of family maintenance."
Yes. Yes,
Should I
please read the
continue?
book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these thoughts of one's wife indicate that the king was overly engrossed with the thoughts of woman. Generally, a chaste woman becomes a very obedient wife. This causes a husband to become attached to his wife, and consequently he thinks of his wife very much at the time of death. This is a very dangerous situation, as is evident from the life of King Puranjana. If one thinks of his wife instead of Krishna at the time of death, he will certainly not return home back to Godhead, but will be forced to accept the body of a woman, and thus begins another chapter of material existence.
Yes. So it's good for a wife that she the uh, husband recognizes her, but not good for the husband. That was proposed right in the next purport, 19th purport. नाशिते भुङ्क्ते न श्नाते श्नाति मत्परा मयि रुस्तेषु सुसन्त्रस्ता बर- बर- बर्त्सिते यतवा भयात् बर्त्सिते यतवा भयात्. Get it, Mataji.
King,
The
King Puranjana then began to think of his past dealings with his wife. He recalled that his wife would not take her dinner until he had finished his that she would not take her bath until he had finished his, and that she was always very much attached to him, so much so that if he would sometimes become angry and chastise her, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior. Purport. Should I continue?
Yes.
A wife is always supposed to be submissive to her husband. Submission, mild behavior, and subservience are qualities in a wife which make a husband very thoughtful of her. For family life, it is very good for a husband to be attached to his wife, but it is not very good for spiritual advancement. Thus, Krishna consciousness must be established in every home. If a husband and wife are very much attached to one another in Krishna consciousness, they will both benefit because Krishna is the center of their existence. Otherwise, if the husband is too much attached to his wife, he becomes a woman in his next life. The woman being overly attached to her husband becomes a man in her next life. Of course, it is an advantage for a woman to become a man but it is not at all advantageous for the man to become a woman.
प्रबोध्येतीमविज्ञम् युषिते शोककर्षिता वर्त्मैतद्ग्रहमेदियम् वीरशूर अपि नेष्यति. This one also you can read, Mother.
King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how he would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, you can read this.
In this
In
material
this
world of conditional life, the fragmental position of the Supreme Lord, the individual soul, is struggling due to his contaminated mind and consciousness. As a part and parcel of Supreme Lord, a living entity is supposed to think of Krishna. But here we see that King Puranjana, the living entity, is thinking of woman. Such mental absorption with some sense object brings about the living entity's struggle for existence in this material world. Since King Puranjana is thinking of his wife, his struggle for existence in the material world will not be ended by death. During one's lifetime, one has to change his activities in order to attain a release from bondage. This,
if we
this
if we
is
do not
if we do not change our consciousness in this life, whatever we do in the name of social, political, religious, or communal and national welfare will be the cause of our bondage. This means we have to continue in material condition life. A person must work very hard, and when he attains the result of his hard work, he thinks himself happy. In the material world, people do not know what real happiness is. Real happiness must be appreciated by one's transcendental senses. Unless one is purified, the transcendental senses are not manifest. Therefore, purify the senses, one must take to Krishna consciousness and eager the senses in the service of the Lord. Then here will be real happiness and liberation.
Prabhuji,
It is
yes, yes, Mother, you can read this purport complete. This
yes,
living
yes.
entity in the
yeah,
material.
it is stated in Bhagavad. Should I read from it is
Shariram
stated?
yadapnoti yadchapyutkramatishvarah.
शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धनिवासयात्. The living entity in the material world carries his different conception of life from one body to another as the air carries aroma. In the wind passes over a garden of roses, it will carry the aroma of rose. And if it passes over the filthy place, it will carry the stench of obnoxious things. Similarly, King Puranjana, the living entity, now passes the air of his life over his wife, a woman. Therefore, he has to accept the body of woman in his next life.
Basically, all his prana is on his wife. That is reason. So as you reap as so as you sow, reap as you sow. Yes, Rishi Kumar.
Prabhuji, we hear that for a sadhaka, the things unfold like we say Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. So, is it like that unless someone gets a rati in Nama, he doesn't get the rati in a further Guna and then Rupa and then Lila? Because, externally speaking, for example, I like to read scriptures, I read, I understand here also. And somehow there is some taste. But I have no taste in chanting holy name. I mean to say I chant in the morning, but I have not having any taste in chanting the holy name. I pray while chanting also and hope that one day Lord Krishna or Guru Vaishnavas will be merciful that I'll get some taste. My point is that whatever little understanding, whatever I like to read scriptures or think about or hear about the classes, is it not pure unless the holy name and this sequence has to be maintained?
Okay. So you are telling about Nama Rupa, Madhurya Leela, Guna Rupa Namna. So therefore you are telling that your reading, hearing should give us attraction to Harer Nama Eva Kevalam.
No. My question is, Prabhu, that we say Nama Rupa Guna Leela. So unless one gets attracted to Nama, then Rupa, then Guna Leela. So this Nam means chanting the developing taste for Harinam while chanting. Yeah. So unless one develops that, one doesn't get developed attraction for the Leelas and Rupa and Guna. Or in that case, whatever little understanding we have of scriptures or we like to think or hear, this is not the pure one. This is a superficial one. Should we take it like that?
Okay. I understood the question. If you see also in the scriptures, the way we see Mangalarti, instead of Nama first, what comes first?
What about Prabhu?
When we sing this,
that is exactly opposite.
Radhika Madhuryorupa. Radhika Madhuryorupa. Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Nam.
Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Nam. So what I feel is out of the Navida Bhakti Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, first is Shravanam. Tare Madhya Sarvashreshta Nama Sankirtan. So at least first we start hearing Leela, Gunas, qualities, Madhurya Leela, Guna, Rupa, and Rupa, then Nama. So Nama is like, it will take. Again, I don't know sequence whether the Nama first attraction to Nama comes first or the attraction, but what I feel is anyway, any attraction to any of the limbs of the Bhakti. What Bhakti he tells is, I think, one of the Maharaj statement I was reading. There it is told that of all the attraction to all the Navita Bhakti, the attraction to the chanting of the holy name is the topmost. That I've heard it. But if we are not at that level, at least whatever taste we are getting in some of the limbs of Bhakti, we can try to focus on that and try to, with that help, we can try to develop taste for the name. It's not like if you are not developing taste for the holy name, that what a reading, hearing is like, okay, it's superficial. It's not like that. Because all are absolute. And because it's like, even the Leela which is there is Lord also has the same potential like the holy name. So that it has a potential to purify. And most of the purpose, what I read is, Lord is absolute. So his pastimes are absolute, his name is absolute, anything connected to him absolute. So if we are getting attracted to any of this and we are getting attachment, that's fine. We can use that, we can take it as a step and try to climb. And one fine day, we can pray that let us also get taste for the holy name. I don't think it is superficial. It's not superficial, I feel.
Thank you.
Okay. Katam nu darakadina darakir parayanaha vattishyante mahi gate vinnanava ivo dadu. So this is which verse? 21st verse. So who is else remaining to read? Okay, Jagannath Govind Prabhu, Sankarshan Kund Prabhu, would you like to read? I think you are in company, but are you comfortable to read?
Yes, King Puranjana continued worrying, after I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters, who are now fully dependent on me, live and continue their lives? Their person will be similar to that of passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of the ocean.
Yeah, Darika means daughters. They were dedicated to serving with affection in my old age. How will they remain? They will die from continual crying. Yes, you can read this, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhupada writes about the politicians. Yeah, I can read the whole Prabhupada. Actually, this is amazing. It's like transmigration of Prabhupada speaks in
At,
India.
at
Full.
the time of death, every living entity worries about what will happen to his wife and children. Similarly, Politician also worries about what will happen to his country or his political party. Unless one is fully Krishna consciousness, he has to accept a body in the next life according to his particular state of consciousness. Since Puranjana is thinking of his wife and children and is overly engrossed in thoughts of his wife, he will accept the body of woman. Similarly, a politician or so-called nationalist who is inorderly attached to the land of his birth will certainly be reborn in the same land after ending his political career. One's next life will also be affected by the acts one performs during this life. Sometimes politicians act most sinfully for their own sense gratification. It is not unusual for a politician to kill the opposing party. Even though a politician may be allowed to take birth in his so-called homeland, he still has to undergo suffering due to his sinful activities in his previous life. The science of transmigration is completely unknown to modern scientists. So-called scientists do not like to bother with these things because if they would at all consider this subtle subject matter and the problems of life, they would see that their future is very dark. Thus, they try to avoid considering the future and continue committing all kinds of sinful activities in the name of social, political, and national necessity.
Yes, their life is very dark. Ivam kripanaya buddhya swachantam atad arhanam grahitum kritadhirenam bhayanamabhya padyata. Yes.
Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavan Raja, whose name was fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him.
Yes. Lamented over the fate of his wife and children, but he was lamenting. Yes, Prabhu, we can read. Yes, you can read here. Polish people not from here. You can read. Yeah, I can read here. First 3 lines.
Foolish people do not know that every individual soul is responsible for his own actions and reactions in life. As long as a living entity in the form of a child or boy is innocent, it is the duty of the father and mother to lead him into a proper understanding of the values of life. When a child is grown, it should be left up to him to execute the duties of life properly. The parent after his death cannot help his child. A father may leave some estate for his children's immediate help, but he should not be overly absorbed in thoughts of how his family will survive after his death. This is the disease of the conditioned soul. Not only does he commit sinful activities of his own sense gratification, but he accumulates great wealth to leave behind so that his children may all joyously arrange for sense gratification.
Yes, so Prabhupada writes, in any case, everyone is afraid of death. Therefore, death is called Bhaya. So King Puranjana also engaged with his children, and death did not wait for him. So death does not wait for anyone. So Prabhupada speaks about this. You can read this, Prabhu, in this verse from here.
In this verse, the word Atad Arhanam is very significant for it means that one should not be overly engaged in welfare activities for one's family members, countrymen, society, and community. None of these will help to advance spiritually. Unfortunately, in human form of life to make spiritual progress, they remain miserable. They use their lives improperly and simply waste them thinking about the material welfare of their relatives, countrymen, society, and so on. One's actual duty is to learn how to conquer death.
Yeah, so death can be conquered by Krishna consciousness. Janma karma shame divyam, Prabhupada is writing. So here, unfortunately, you can read from here, Guruji, instead of.
Unfortunately, instead of doing so, people are absorbed in thoughts of society, friendship, love, and relatives. This Krishna Consciousness movement, however, is educating people throughout the world and informing them how to conquer death. Harinam vina na mrityum taranti. One cannot conquer death without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Hari. Yes. Pashuvadyevaneresha niyamana svakam kshayam anvadravam anupataha sochanto brisham atura. Yes, we can read this also one shloka.
When the Yavanas were taking King Puranjana away to their place, finding him like an animal, the king's followers became greatly aggravated. While they lamented, they were forced to go along with him.
Yes, he was led away like an animal by the Amdutas. His life and air followers ran after him. And the life air follows the jiva when it leaves the body, and the other life air all and the other life airs follow the main life air. Yes, so Prabhupada writes here, when Emraj and assistants are taking a living entity away to the place of judgment, the life air, the desires, followers, living entity also go with him. And this is confirmed the same thing, same quotation what Prabhupada is writing here. The living entity and the life air are gone. The lump of matter produced of five elements, earth, water, air, fire, ether is rejected and left behind. It is burned basically. Then the living entity goes to the judgment, court of judgment, Emraj, and then he will get what? Body will get. The process is unknown to the modern scientist, Prabhupada is telling. So you can read from here. Every living entity is responsible for his activities.
Every living entity is responsible for his activities in this life, and after death, he is taken to the court of Yamraja, where it is decided what kind of body he will take next. Although the gross material body is left, the living entity and his desires, as well as the resultant reaction of his past activities, go on. It is Yamraja who decides what kind of body one gets next in accordance with one's past actions.
Yes. Purim vihayopagataha uparuddho bhujangam yada tameva nupuri vishirna prakritim gata. Yes. Who else is remaining? I think we are finished. Okay, we have completed one round. We can start it again, Rishi Kumar Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, please.
Thank you. Translation. The serpent, who has already been arrested by the soldiers of Yamaraj and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust.
Yeah, the snake was captured by the Devanas. The city returned to the elements. Prakritim Gata. It was burned to ashes. Yes, you can read the purport Prabhu.
When the living entity is arrested, all his followers, namely the life air, the senses, and the sense objects, immediately leave the lump of the matter, the body. When the living entity and his companions leave, the body no longer works but turns into basic material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of the city and bombards it to smash the whole things to dust. When we say, "Thus thou art, and unto thus thou shalt return," we refer to the body. When a city is attacked and bombarded by enemies, the citizens generally leave, and the city ceases to exist. It is a foolish man. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spiritual soul is the principal factor within the body. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, the spirit soul is saved from external transmigration. The Bhagavatam considers those who are attached to their bodies to be like cows and asses. So eva gokhara. The cows is a very innocent animal, and the ass is a beast of burden. One who labors under the bodily condition simply works like an ass and doesn't know how his self-interest. doesn't know his self-existence. It
Yeah,
is
that's
therefore
one quote that shloka of 10 Canto 13th. You can directly come here with last human civilization divide of Krishna consciousness.
human civilization divided of Krishna consciousness is simply a civilization of lower animals. Sometimes such a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of the body is important unless the spirit soul is present. In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out some value in the brain or head of a dead man.
Heart, and head.
So,
Vikrishyamana
heart.
prashavam yavanena baliyasa navindantamasavishtah sakayam sugatam pura.
When King Puranjana was being dragged with great force by the powerful Yavana, out of his gross ignorance, he still could not remember his friend and well-wisher, the super soul.
Yes. So Prabhupada, Chakravarti says, by ignorance, he did not know the super soul Lord was his friend previously. And Prabhupada quote the same thing, Bhuktaram Vetuksam Sarvabhumeshwaram. Then he says, Sarvabhutani, Ishvara Sarvabhutana Virdeshwar Trishtati. Yes, from here you can read the living entity and super soul sitting.
The living entity and the super soul are sitting side by side in the same tree. But despite being harassed by the laws of material nature, the foolish living entity does not turn the Supreme Person God for protection. However, he thinks that he is able to protect himself from the stranger law of material nature. This, however, is not possible. The living entity must turn towards the Supreme Person Godhead and surrender unto him. Only then will he be saved from the onslaught of the powerful Yavana.
Yeah, then you can read the last line.
Unfortunately, due to our bad association and great attachment and self-identification, we do not remember our best friend, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Although he is sitting next to us, although he is our Upadashta, Hanumanta, well-wisher, everything, sons. So Prabhupada said, despite all the offense of a son, the father and the mother are always the son's well-wisher. So despite all offense and defiance of the desire of Supreme Lord, Lord gives immediate relief from all hardships by material nature if we simply surrender unto him. But we are, because of bad association, we do not remember best friend. Damyatnya pashavo annena samnyapta ye dayaluna kutarai chichitu kruddha smaranto amivam asyatat. Somebody else who is there, they can continue. Shiromani Radhika Mataji, can you read this next two verses?
Yes, Prabhuji. The most unkind king, Puranjana, had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was as tough.
It was he were being cut to pieces by
He
axes.
were being cut to pieces by axes.
So animals cut by his knife during material sacrifice began to cut him with axes. Amivan means offense. Yes. So here Prabhupada writes the same thing. Mamsa indicates that those animals whom we kill, we will be given opportunity to kill us. Although in actuality no living entity is killed, pain of being pierced by the horns of animals will be experienced after death. Not doing this, people even continue to kill the animals. That is what Prabhupada is telling here. This purport. We go to the next one. अनन्तापरतमसि मग्नो नष्टस्मृतिः समः शाश्वतैरनुभूयार्तिं प्रमादासङ्गदूषितः. Yes, Mataji, please read.
Due to his contaminated association with human, a living entity like King Puranjana eternally suffer all the pangs of material existence and remains in the dark region of material life, bereft of all remembrance for many, many years.
So Chakravarti says he was merged in darkness, devoid of end in suffering. Since he worshipped through many sacrifices, it should be understood that he also enjoyed happiness in Swarga. It's not mentioned in order to create a sense of renunciation, Prachinabari. Because of remembering a woman, he became a woman. The spiritual perspective is this. It was said that because one faints from the extreme pain at the time of death, the loss of dharmic influence is temporary. After enjoying in the Swarga with the exhaustion of pious deeds, he regains his dharmic influence and is born in the house of a person following Dharma. Shruti Nam Shimatam, that one. That is the intention of the verse. However, attaining a body of a man or woman was not mentioned. The various options of birth, however, such as man or woman, are not mentioned here. Foolish Jiva, sometimes a man, sometimes he's woman, sometimes he's a eunuch, sometimes he's devata. or animal, his birth takes place according to the gunas and his actions. That will come. Again, Prabhupada speaks about the same thing. To save human civilization from the darkness of ignorance, this movement was started. The main purpose of the Krishna conscious movement is to enlighten the forgetful living entity and remind him and remind him of his original Krishna consciousness. In this way, the living entity can be saved from the catastrophe of ignorance as well as bodily transmigration. Mataji, you can read this one. Last, the word Pramada Sangha Dushita indicates.
Pramada Sangha Dushitehi
Dushita.
indicates Dusitaha indicates that apart from all other contamination, if one simply remains attached to a woman, the single contamination will be sufficient to prolong one's miserable material existence. Consequently, in Vedic civilization, one is trained from the beginning to give up attachment for woman. The first stage of life is brahmachari, the second stage grahastha, the third stage vanaprastha, and the fourth stage sannyasa. All these stages are div- div- devised to enable one to detach himself from the association of woman.
Yes. So means for man, woman, man. Tameva manasa granan babuvo pramudottama anantaram vibarbhasya rajasimhasya veshmani.
King Puranjana gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently, in his next life, he became a very beautiful and well situated woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king.
Yes, he became a daughter. What says his Purujan thought of his wife at the time of death? He attained a body of woman. MM Vapis Paran Prabhupada is quoting that. Yes, Mata, you can read this. When a living entity is accustomed to
When,
this.
when a living entity is accustomed to think of particular subject matter or become absorbed in a certain type of thought, he will think of that subject at the time of death. At the time of death, one will think of the subject that has occupied his life while he was awake, like lightly sleeping or dreaming, or while he was deeply sleeping. After falling from the association of the Supreme Lord, the living entity thus transmigrates from one bodily form to another according to nature's course until he finally attains the human form. If he is absorbed in material thoughts and ignored of spiritual life, and if he does not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who solves all questions of birth and death, he will become a woman in the next life, especially if he thinks of his wife.
That is what Prabhupada writes. And Prabhupada says, although King Purjana was overly attached to his wife, he nonetheless performed many pious spiritual activities. Consequently, although he took the form of a woman, he was fortunate. He was given a chance to be daughter of powerful king. That is Vidarbha. His name was Vaidarbhi. So Prabhupada quotes her Prabha Punya Kratam Lokam, unsuccessful yogi after many years of enjoyment. He is born in a family of Yoga Brashta Vijayate, Suchinam Shimatam. You can read the last paragraph, Mataji. Person falls from path
If
of
a person falls from the path of Bhakti Yoga, God realization due to attachment to fruitive activity, philosophical speculation, or mystic yoga, he is given a chance to take birth in high and rich family. The higher authorities appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead thus render justice to the living entity according to the living entity's desires. Although King Puranjana was overly absorbed in thoughts of his wife and thus became a woman, he took birth in the family of a king due to his previous pious activities. A conclusion is that all our activities are taken into consideration before we are awarded another body. Narada Muni therefore advised Vasudeva that one should take to Krishna consciousness, devotional service, and abandon all ordinary occupational duties. This advice was also given by Lord Krishna himself. Although a devotee may fall from the path of spiritual consciousness, he will nonetheless attain a human body in the home of a devotee or a rich man. In this way, one can resume his devotional service.
that option, that opportunity Puranjana got. Yes, Kohli.
In the next chapter, because I have just roughly read, long read, it seems that she gets birth and she gets a good husband, and then the person goes back to Godhead from there, right? Because she perfected her life.
Basically, he Vaidarbhi, he gets a husband who is a devotee, who is a king, Malayadwaja. That is the next verse. And after that, it's about practicing bhakti. The first life is about intelligence, getting material, no, Jiva coming in touch with the material intelligence. Second chapter is about Jivatma going on a hunt, matlab giving his not varnashram dharmic intelligence and trying to go vikarma. Again, coming back to the dharma, but getting dharmic, but not becoming bhakti. The third life is about bhakti. The third
Yeah,
one.
so just like Bharat Maharaj, right? Bro?
Yeah. But again, it's not 1, 2, 3 lives. It's like this is first life he was Puranjan, second life he becomes Oman.
Yeah, no, but the more
Ah,
whole consciousness is.
yes,
Bro,
yes.
this also one purport I read, not recently, long back, just remembering before as we were discussing. Papa said, however, it is difficult to achieve the Supreme Lord and go back home back to Godhead in one lifetime. But like that, then Prabhupada said we should put a whole effect and all that. So I was little this thing that however it is difficult to go back home back to Godhead in one lifetime. Prabhupada right in one place.
Yeah, yes, that should not, what you say,
Discourage us.
discourage us. Why? Because who knows, in last life also might be your birth. Last time it was the first life and this is the second life, or we had already done 2 lives and this is the third life, probably. It's like, and even if it is there, this is the first life. If we are practicing intensely,
Yeah, intensity actually is one important aspect.
if you practice intensely, even if you have next life, then the intensity will continue in the next life.
What happens, so for years we continue devotional thing. I'm saying about myself. So practically, what happens that now it has become as a religious thing that we don't avoid it, we don't neglect it. But that fire is not 24 hours. That's the feeling.
Yes. So how to
It has
make
become
that
a
fire
religious
24?
activity. Like we do it. Yeah, we have to do it. It is a part of our life. Yeah.
Yes, true. What you are making happens when the complacency comes into the devotional life. But again, especially as if somebody is in a Grahastha life and he has to work and he has to go out, it's little challenging. But whatever chanting, reading, hearing, we are able to do. But we have to no other
Yeah,
option.
no, that is true, bro. We cannot just say that, I have this thing, that thing, and then fine. That nothing goes wrong in that Krishna consciousness. Suchitam, Srimatam, we go on doing this thing. Again, we have to go to a womb and then it can continue the same process again. It has to be taken seriously. When I will take it.
So how to take it? That one has to work individually.
Yeah, that is there.
Yeah.
Some inspiration and then some force, some kicking, everything is required for me.
Yes. उपयेमे वीर्यपानं वैदर्भीं मलयाध्वज युधि निर्जित्य राजन्यान् पाण्डय्या पाण्डय्या पुरञ्जयो. So he was the king of Pandu. Yes. I think Parvashri Mataji, can you read this one? If you are comfortable.
Yes. Hare Krishna Prabhu. It was fixed that Vaidarbhi, daughter of King Vidarbha, was to marry to a very powerful man, Malayadwaja, inhabitants of the Pandu country. After conquering other princes, he married the daughter of King Vidarbha.
Hmm. Basically defeat all the princes and then later on he got to marry the daughter of Vidarbha. So again Chakravarti writes here, as long as the jiva does not have bhakti, he cannot get deliverance from samsara. Bhakti is spontaneous. It arises from association of devotees by spontaneous mercy of devotees. That is shown in the Puranjan's next life as Vaidarbhi, where he attained association with a devotee through marriage. Although he had no, again he could not do anything in the previous life, but in next life somehow Yadrichya, by good fortune, he got association of a devotee husband. Maladwaja means the best Dwaja among the devotees who are equal to Malaya mountain range. And since they are worthy of the same worship, Upayame can mean accepting to be a student. Viryapanam, prize for valor, can also mean no one else could be accepted as teacher because he had great mercy as his power, Virya. So one who is situated in his prescribed duty, free from sexual activities and cleansed of mental contamination in this very life, obtains transcendental knowledge or by fortune devotional service unto me. That is what 11th canto it comes. Uddhav Gita. So again, when material life of Vanting Sula ceased, this is Muchukunda, the revelation. O Achyuta, he may attain the association of your devotees. And when he associates with them, there he awakens in him devotion to you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. So these verses show that bhakti arises in the jiva in some birth from sudden association with the devotee. He had defeated other kings. This means that he had uprooted all sins, offenses, time, and karma. So these are some of the obstacles: sins, offenses, prarabdha, time, and karma. Pandya means he was from Pandya province, or he who could discriminate between matter and spirit. Parapuranjaya means you conquer the cities of enemies, or he who cut the doubts arising from other philosophies, like impersonalist or Maya or other things. So he was a pure devotee. That is what Chakravarti says. And even the Prabhupada is going to write the same thing in the purport. Can read, I think we'll end with this one. Yes, Mataji, please read. It is customary.
Yes. It is customary among Kshatriyas for a princess to be offered under the certain conditions. For instance, Draupadi was offered in the marriage to one who could pierce a fish with an arrow simply by seeing the reflection of that fish. Krishna married once one of his queens after conquering 7 strong bulls. The Vedic system is for a daughter of king to be offered under the certain conditions. Whether the daughter of Vidarbha, was offered to great devotee and powerful king, since King Malayadhwaja was both powerful king and a great devotee. He fulfilled all the requirements. The name Malayadhwaja signifies a great devotee who stands as firm as Malaya hills, and through his propaganda makes other devotees similarly as firm. Such Mahabhagavata can prevail our opinions to all others. A strong devotee makes propaganda against all other spiritual conceptions, namely Jnana, Karma, and Yoga. With his devotional flag unfurled, he always stands fast to conquer other conceptions of transcendental realizations. Whenever there is an argument,
Yes, yes. So that again, that is Prabhupada writes that when there is an argument between a devotee and non-devotee, the pure strong devotee comes out victorious. You can read from here. This means that pure devotee is strong in devotional service and was conquered all non-devotional conceptions.
okay,
Yes.
Prabhuji. This means that a pure devotee who is strong in devotional service and who has conquered all non-devotional conceptions can also conquer the kingdom of God. In other words, one can conquer the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, only by rendering a devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Ajita, meaning that no one can conquer him, but a devotee by strong devotional service and sincere attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can easily conquer him. Lord Krishna is fear personified as for everyone, but he voluntarily agreed to fear the sticks of Mother Yashoda. Krishna, God cannot be conquered by anyone but his devotee. Such a devotee kindly married the daughter of a king Vidarbha.
Yes, I think I'm planning to finish this chapter tomorrow. It's chapter 65 verses. I think for 5-10 minutes we can extend it a little bit today, so that we can complete this 30 or 31 verses. So
I'll ask a question next time to them.
you can ask. You can ask.
Two questions. One is that these dynasties which are there, the work Pandya. So this Pandya dynasty is there. It is still there in South India in terms of they constructing many temples, especially in their time, 700 AD. So this dynasty is still existing, right? No, Pandya also.
I'm not so good at history, but yeah, but I've heard Pandya dynasty.
Pandya, Chola, these are because when we go to South Indian temples, they say this deity has been for a long time, but the temple has been erected by Pandyas and Cholas.
Yes. So asking,
second
is it the
question.
same dynasty? You are asking, is it the same dynasty? Are you asking this?
Yeah, because this word is.
Yes. I think Chakravarti has written something here in Pandya, you know. He writes something for this word Pandya. Although it has some significance, but might be the same dynasty. I don't know. But yeah, it has some significance.
So one more question. So I'm seeing that our Prabhupada or Acharyas and even current Acharya, they are so merciful that they actually made temples. And think for a common condition soul like us, how much we can do bhakti in home. I mean to say, it's obviously the highest is that one meditates, thinks, chants, reads, and do whatever at home. But actually, temple deities are a place where actually they get engaged, and the whole propensity of service comes into the heart of a devotee. Very compassionate Acharya. Many times they say, why they have only one temple nearby? Why there's a need of second temple? But they say, yes, but that way actually devotee gets an engagement. Or a common man feels that he can be very nicely engaged.
True.
Otherwise, in the present Kali Yuga situation, Prabhu, a devotee's house itself is very difficult. I mean to say, they say that do the minimum and then done. So they have so many other lists to be done. So some of these temples keep them engaged and alive.
Yes. So Chakravarti is filling here Pandya. Pandya means he was from the Pandya province, or he could discriminate between matter and spirit. That is meaning of Pandya. Means I think Pandu country. So it might be from same province, Pandya province. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Very bold. So directly, I think further 3 shlokas will directly read the translation. And then see. My dear King Prachina Parishad, the sons of Malayadvaja gave birth to many thousands and thousands of sons, and all of these have been protecting the entire world up to the end of Manu's lifespan and even afterward. So Chakravarti says the 7 sons had many sons, grandsons. This also means that the process like hearing can each be subdivided into hearing the name. Okay, 31st. I think 30. Okay, 30.
Yes, Prabhu. We did not read 30, Prabhu.
30 will read 30. King Maladhvaj fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became the rulers of the tract of land known as Dravida. Thus, there were 7 kings in that land. So, what 7 kings refers to? 7 kings refers to that daughter's name is Asitekshanaha. Asitekshana was daughter's name. It can also mean she who received the glance of Krishna, Asita. Thus, it means one who has a taste for serving Krishna. By mercy of a guru, the jiva develops a taste for serving Krishna. 7 sons were born later. They are hearing, remembering, chanting, serving the lotus feet, deity worship, going down that Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Swaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Sakyam Atmanidam is not included here, only 7. So when one takes a bhakti is a daughter, and then followed by these are the 7 sons. That is what Chakravarti was mentioning. Because why friendship is not included here? Friendship and full surrender are difficult in the beginning and will appear spontaneously later. They are not mentioned. They will only come in the bhava stage. The sons were kings of the southern province. The southern province are renowned for prominence of bhakti, hearing and chanting. Like most of the Sri Vaishnavas, Namalvar, the Ramacharya, most of that comes in southern province. Madhvacharya. The 7 processes ruled like the kings, having subdued karma, jnana, and other process. That is what Chakravarti says. And again, Prabhupada writes King Malayadhvaj was a great devotee, and after he married the daughter of King Vidarbha, he gave her a nice daughter whose eyes were black. Figuratively, this means the daughter of King Malayadhvaj was also bestowed a devotional service for her. Her eyes were always fixed on Krishna, Asitekshana. A devotee has no vision in his life other than Krishna. The 7 sons are 7 processes of bhakti: hearing, chanting, remembering, offering worship, offering prayers, rendering transcendental loving service, and serving the lotus feet of Lord. The 9 type of bhakti, only 7 are immediately given. The balance, friendship and surrendering, were to develop later in Shuddha Bhakti. In other words, devotional service is divided into 2 categories, namely Vidhi Marg and Raga Marg. The process of becoming friends with the Lord and sacrificing Sharanagati, that comes in the Raga Marg, the stage of developed devotional service. So for neophyte, hearing, chanting, remembering, first 7, they are mentioned. And remaining to Sakyam and Atma Nivedanam comes for a Raga Marg. That is what Prabhupada is telling here. The word Yavishaha, Yavi Yashaha indicates that these processes are very powerful. After a devotee engages in the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Sparanam, and is able to secure this process, he can later become a devotee capable of rendering spontaneous devotional service, namely Sakyam and Atma Nivedanam. Generally, the great acharyas who preach devotional service all over the world belong to the category of Sakyam and Atma Nivedan. Like Prabhupada is referring to himself. And the neophyte devotee cannot actually become a preacher like me. anyone who's trying to preach on the order of their guru. The neophyte is advised to execute devotional service in the 7 other fields. First, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, till there. Sakyam and Atmaniveda is for reserved for the pure devotee. If one can successfully execute the preliminary 7 items, he can in future be situated on the platform of Sakyam and Atmanivedanam. And Prabhupada says, Dravid Desha specifically refers to South India. Acharya like Ramanacharya, Madhvacharya also came from Dravid Desh, and they are on the platform of Sakyam and Atmanivedanam. So Prabhupada is so humble, not referring to him. And Prabhupada also was in that camp. Yes.
Also, this is another coincidence that this word Dravida is mentioned and Pandya. So again, Dravida means south. Pandya means south.
Yes, true. Yes, Prabhu. So, my dear King Prachinabari, the sons of Malayadvaja gave birth to many thousands and thousands of sons, and all of these have been protecting the entire world up to the end of one Manu's lifespan and even afterward. Again, 7 sons had many grandsons, and they were subdivided. Hearing the names, pastimes, or qualities they can be divided according to worship of different avatars. They can be divided up to different rasas, the grandsons. And Bhakti Yoga Bhavo Vido Margair Bhavani Bhavyate Swabhava Guna Margena Pumsam Bhavo Vividyate. Bhakti appears in many forms by particular actions in the person according to his intentions. The intentions of men are classed by the actions of the gunas arising from one's nature. The descendants are different sampradayas, they rule over the whole earth. This means that the earth is protected from the ignorance and materialistic karma yoga. That is what he writes. Manu means Prabhupada writes 71 multiplied by, again, in one day of Brahma there are 14 manvantaras. And that means one Manu rules for 71 days of 71 Divyugas. That is Prabhupada's writing here. Prabhupada writes here, among the Vaishnavas there may be some difference of opinion due to everyone's personal identity, but despite all personal differences, the cult of Krishna consciousness must go on. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur have been preaching the Krishna movement in an organized way within the past 100 years. The disciples of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj are all God brothers, and although there are some difference of opinion, although we are not acting co-jointly, everyone of us is spreading this movement according to one's capacity and producing many disciples to spread all over the world. So Prabhupada is writing about how they spread all over the world, speaking about the Gaudiya Vaishnavism and how they're trying to spread in America, and all the Navida Bhakti is spread everywhere without description of caste, creed, color. Prabhupada's word bhokshate, very important. Just as king gives protection to citizens, devotees following the principles of devotional service will give protection to all the people of the world from sense gratification, from karma, jnana, jnana, all those things, and only come to pure bhakti. Again, there are Prabhupada's 4 sampradayas: Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu, Swami, Nimbaraka Swami. And ours is Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So all these devotees are spreading this Krishna conscious movement very widely and giving protection to innocent people who are being so much embarrassed by pseudo avatara, Swami, yogis at other times. So it's like a right time. Again, next. The great sage named Agastya married the first-born daughter of Malayadvaja, Asitekshana, the avowed devotee of the Lord Krishna. From her, one son was born, whose name was Achyut, and from him another son was born, whose name was Idmavaha. So what is the meaning of this? Agastya married first daughter, who brings, Agastya means one who brings all the senses which cannot act on their own. This means the mind which accepted a taste for Krishna, Ruchi, the first daughter. Mind which is attracted to sense gratification, that is not Agastya. The mind is attracted to Ruchi for Krishna, that is Agastya, getting Arishekshana. That taste produce firm vows of mercy, tolerance, and good qualities. That is called Dhradavartam. And that is the name of another son. It's called Dhradachuta. This means that from taste, by the Ruchi, by the great mercy, the mind of Jiva then developed Asakti for serving Krishna. That Asakti was devoid of Achyuta, attachment, Dhrada, to Satyaloka and other places. This means it had distaste for upper planetary systems. Or they developed distaste for other practices like Jnana and liberation, which is majority people who do Jnana, they go to Maharloka, Janaloka, all those lokas. That means the mind was completely devoid of desire for other paths except serving Krishna. How did all this arise? He had a son, Idmamaha, one who carries firewood from sacrifice. This is famous in Shruti passages. With a fuel in hand, one should approach a guru learned in Vedas and fixed in the Lord for knowledge of the Lord. It means surrender to Guru. According to the storyline, Agastya had a son named Dhradachuta, who had a son named Idma. This is a description of the descendants of Maladwaja's daughter. So again, the same thing Prabhupada also writes here. One cannot render bhakti to any demigod. Bhakti can be rendered only to Vishnu. That is what Prabhupada is writing here. Not Mayavadis. The real fact is bhakti can be applied only to Lord Vishnu and expansions. Bhakti Lata is Dhradavrata. Great verb for when the mind is completely engaged in devotional service, the mind does not fall down. One tries to advance by other means, by karma jnana, there is tendency to fall down, but by bhakti it is fixed. So Prabhupada writes about this. Bhakti Lata, the son of Achyut, is born, and from Achyut, the next son, Idma is born. The word Idma refers to one who carries wood for burning and sacrifice, approaching a spiritual master. The point is that Bhakti Lata, the cult of devotion, fixes one in his spiritual position. One so fixed never comes down, and biggest children who are strict followers of Shastric injunction. Again, in the line of devotional service, those who are initiated are strict followers of the Vedic scriptural injunctions. So when you practice strictly, when the mind is attached to bhakti, then the dhrata and not to accept any other path process that starts. And then one practices bhakti very strictly with, we can come to the raga mark. Okay. So we'll close here. We'll continue from 33 tomorrow. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
So grateful to you, Guru. Thank you. For giving
Thank you.
explanations.
Srila Prabhupada, thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much. Dandavat pranam.